are on Exodus chapter 36. After chapter 35. I know, just checking. Now, as I recall, we were through verse 7 of chapter 36. We had heard about these men that God had appointed to do these things, and now we're going to hear the actual building of the tabernacle. So we've kind of had 2 layers of instruction on this, and now we're at the building. So we are at Exodus 36, verse 8 and following. And the craftsmen among the workmen made the tabernacle with 10 curtains. They were made of fine twined linen and blue and purple and scarlet yarns, which cherubim skillfully worked. The length of each curtain was 28 cubits, and the breadth of each curtain 4 cubits. All the curtains were the same size. He coupled 5 curtains to one another, and the other 5 curtains he coupled to one another. He made loops of blue on the edge of the outermost curtain of the first set. Likewise, he made them on the edge of the outermost curtain of the second set. He made 50 loops on the one curtain. He made 50 loops on the edge of the curtain in the second set. The loops were opposite one another. He made 50 clasps of gold, coupled the curtains one to another with clasps. So the tabernacle was a single whole. We've got 2 sets of curtains here that are attached to each other on the sides, and then have these loops across the top. That's the short version. He also made curtains of goat's hair for a tent over the tabernacle. He made 11 curtains. The length of each curtain was 30 cubits, roughly 20 feet. The breadth of each curtain, 4 cubits. He had 11 curtains for the same size. He coupled 5 curtains by themselves, 6 curtains by themselves. He made 50 loops on the edge of the outermost curtain of one set, 50 loops on the edge of the other connecting curtain. He made 50 clasps of bronze to couple the tent together that it might be a single whole. He made for the tent a covering of tanned ram skins and goat skins. So this is a covering that will go over the top of the covering of the tent. So this is kind of, I don't know what you would probably call that in a tent. Canopy. Yeah, kind of a canopy over the top of the tent. So this is the rough-hewn canopy made of goat hair. Anybody have any questions? Move along here. Nobody has any goat hair questions?
Oh, they used it, I read in there, they used them for the curtain.
Right. Then he made the upright frames for the tabernacle.
That was the Kentucky tabernacle.
Exactly. I need him. For the tabernacle of acacia wood. 10 cubits was the length of a frame, and a cubit and a half the breadth of each frame. It's not a very wide frame. Each frame had 2 tenons for fitting together. He did this for all the frames of the tabernacle. The frames for the tabernacle he made thus: 20 frames for the south side. He made 40 bases of silver under the 20 frames. 2 bases under one frame for its 2 tenons. 2 bases under the next frame for its 2 tenons. For the second side of the tabernacle on the north side, he made 20 frames. 40 bases of silver, 2 bases under one frame, 2 bases under the next frame. The rear of the tabernacle westward, he made 6 frames. He made 2 frames for corners of the tabernacle in the rear. They were separate beneath, but joined at the top, at the first ring. He made 2 of them this way for the 2 corners. There were 8 frames with bases of silver, 16 bases under every frame, 2 bases. So why is he building this whole thing out of with all of these loops and these bases that kind of slide into place? Why? This seems like an incredibly inefficient way to build a building. I'm no expert on that. And there's no elevator either. Just couldn't resist that one. Why is he doing it this way? Mobile. Exactly. The whole thing can be taken apart and packed up and moved. So everything has to be mobile. Pastor Mike.
You call it semi-mobile.
Semi-mobile.
need 1,200 people to catch.
All right. Yep. Yep.
Really?
Yep.
Holy.
Yeah. So mobile, but not mobile like a mobile battalion mobile. Okay. Yeah. I would think that this building might be almost that mobile.
The sanctuary is very close.
The sanctuary is very close. Yeah. 1,200 people. We'll do it.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. He made. There he goes. 35. He made the veil of blue and purple scarlet yarn and fine twined linen. With cherubim skillfully worked into it, he made it. For it he made 4 pillars of acacia, overlaid them with gold. Their hooks were of gold, and he cast for them 4 bases of silver. He also made a screen for the entrance of the tent, of blue and purple and scarlet yarns, and of fine twined linen, embroidered with needlework. And his 5 pillars with their hooks. He overlaid their capitals, and their fillets were of gold, and their 5 bases were of bronze. Bezalel. You notice how I'm just moving right on to 37? We're not just stopping, we're just going. Bezalel made the ark of acacia wood. 2 cubits and a half was its length, a cubit and a half its breadth, a cubit and a half its height. He overlaid it with pure gold, inside and outside. Made a molding of gold around it. He cast for it 4 rings of gold for its 4 feet. 2 rings on its one side, 2 rings on its other side. He made poles of acacia wood and overlaid them with gold. Put the poles into the rings on the sides of the ark to carry the ark. He made a mercy seat of pure gold. 2 cubits and a half was its length, and a cubit and a half its breadth. And he made 2 cherubim of gold. He made them of hammered work on the 2 ends of the mercy seat. 1 cherub on the one end and 1 cherub on the other, and 1 piece with the mercy seat he made the cherubim on its 2 ends. The cherubim spread out their wings above, overshadowing the mercy seat with their wings, with their faces one to another, toward the mercy seat were the faces of the cherubim. All right. So, and I know I've mentioned this before, but just to highlight, why acacia wood? What is it about acacia wood that's making this the kind of the wood for everything here? Does anybody remember?
Super hard.
It's super hard, and it's available. It's there. So they're not having to get this from Timbuktu in order to find it. So this acacia wood is available there. David.
So Laura asked me this question, and I don't know the answer, so I'm curious.
You're dishing it to me?
Yes. So the cherubim, how is it that in those days they knew exactly what they were talking about? And
What they look like?
Yeah, what they looked like.
That is a fantastic question. I don't know.
Like, had they seen them? Because they might, if you go to some of the, the old Egyptian statues,
Right.
they are depicting something.
I do not remember off the top of my head an incident prior to this of cherubim. I mean, you certainly have angel of the Lord, and you have appearances of different angels, but I do not remember the physical. Do you think of one, Pastor Meyer? I don't think there is. And I love how to back up. Garden of Eden, but was that the cherubim? That might be right.
Yeah.
Posted guard.
Flaming.
Full pastors just thrown under the bus by the way. I think you're right.
But I mean, it's not like a lot of people were passing those.
That was a while back.
That was a while back, but nevertheless, that is correct. I repent. Was there? And then I hand it over to Jerry, and then Barbara.
Next is this gentleman, Dallas, I can't remember how to pronounce his name.
Bezalel.
Bezalel, and he's mentioned earlier at the beginning of, I think it's, in chapter 35.
Okay.
And when I read what he says in chapter 35 from the tribe of Judah, and then God gave him the Spirit and all.
Right?
Is this a type, like, talk about a type of Christ?
Well, I think you've got that, and you certainly can speak in terms of inspiration there. I mean, having the Spirit that's inspiration, inspiration language there. So that would be kind of one answer to that, and that I think is true to some degree with everything going on here. But I am really curious about the cherubim regarding the. I mean, there isn't much there other than simply the word. You know, it just says that this is happening. It doesn't say anything else describing them in any detail. Ben?
Well, I mean, I don't know if related to the angel that
Right. And that's why I say you've got the angel of the Lord, you've got the angel of death, you've got various descriptions of angels, but none of them have descriptions like we get in Isaiah of the six-winged seraphim and all, that kind of detail does not happen until much later. That I remember, which we've already established is not perfect. False.
I noticed that the mercy seat was the same measurement as the top of the ark.
Yes? Yeah.
Matched.
Yeah, and let kind of get a picture a little bit of this size. Two cubits and a half. So how long is that? Yeah. 2.5 arm lengths. So we're not talking about a great big thing here. We're talking about 41, 42 inches in length. That's how big this ark is. About like that. Something along those lines. In other words, in this instance, Indiana Jones was pretty close. In the ark, at least. And so, what's the relationship between the wood and the gold? It's made of wood, it's overlaid with gold. So it's gold plated, basically. Yeah, Barbara, I'm sorry, I forgot.
They place guards around on this, that's a lot of gold.
It's a lot of gold. It's a lot of gold. And yes.
Struck dead touching me.
Well, right, that does definitely act as a deterrent. It's kind of the ultimate electrified fence, I guess.
Gold can be rolled up very thin.
Yep,
I remember they covered the dome of the Capitol in Iowa with gold.
right.
It only took a few ounces to do the whole. Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting.
Very
This is Catherine's parents, by the way, for those of you who don't remember. Bob and Shirley Grant, welcome. But yes, now we had something in not too long before, kind of figuring out how much gold total they had, and it was like, I think it was between 40 and 70 pounds. So it was actual. So this is not that kind of crazy thin gold, but there's also a lot that needs to be plated here. Remember the entire tabernacle. So, and all of these furnishings and everything else, but that is certainly true. And nevertheless, it is plated gold, even if it's not that thin of plating like we have now. But it is still plated because, a solid gold thing, that would be heavy. And not only ridiculously expensive, but heavy, very heavy. So that gives us a sense of the size and what it's made of. And these poles, once the poles are put in place, they're left there. They aren't moved, as I recall it at least. And also, remember, mercy seat does not mean this kind of seat. We're not talking about a mercy chair, but more like a footstool. That's kind of the picture that you have there. Every time, I'm sure that I've mentioned this before, but every time I hear the word mercy seat, I'm reminded of the hymn, we sang it, 3 weeks ago, Lord thee I love with all my heart, which has that line, my Savior and I think our translation has ground of grace, which I have no idea what that means, but the word is Gnade throne, which is throne of grace, and that's mercy seat sort of language, Jesus as the mercy seat, that this is where God's mercy flows from. That's the whole point of this, is that this is not the place of law and of simply kind of rules and blasting. This is the place of mercy. That's the point. Now there were a couple hands and several furrowed brows along the way here. Catherine?
Well, just as you were saying, it's not like they put, obviously they do sacrifices, but they didn't put a sacrificial thing on top of the ark. It was the mercy seat. Again, this is God his identity is on mercy. That is in the end who he is.
Well, and all of the sacrifices are made for the sake of God's mercy, not in order to kind of make up things in order to appease an angry God. And I know I'm getting repetitive here, but I'm a pastor after all, so I go with the territory. That the whole point of all of these things is that they don't make up how to get to God. God gives them the means, and he delivers himself to them. They do not say, okay, well, what can we do to appease this angry God that's up there in heaven somewhere? Well, let's try this. If that doesn't work, let's try this. Let's try this. That's Greek mythology, right there. That's what can we do to please these random, capricious gods? That's the law. That's the gods of the law. That is not this. Well,
I think it's kind of interesting, the Garden of Eden was where perfection was,
yes,
and it was guarded by 2 cherubim,
yes,
and now where God sits is on this mercy seat,
sure.
guarded
Guarded by the
by
cherubim,
cherubim, and now Christ is the perfection.
right?
So he's not guarded, but it's, we talk about...
But he is surrounded by angels.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
Yeah,
There's some very interesting lines that are kind of drawn along there. And you think of Jesus at the Garden of Gethsemane, or even further back, what happens with Jesus at the end of the temptations? And angels come and minister to him. What happens in the Garden of Gethsemane? Angels come and minister to him. And it is precisely at Jesus' death on the cross that the angels are not there. But where do we see them again? At the empty tomb. that Jesus' presence is surrounded by these centaurs, these angels. Lots of interesting stuff there. All right. He also made the lampstand of pure gold. I mean, the lampstand of hammered work. Its base, its stem, its cups, its calyxes, its flowers were of one piece with it. There were 6 branches going out of its sides, 3 branches of the lampstand out of one side of it, 3 branches of the lampstand out of the other side of it. 3 cups made like almond blossoms, each with calyx and flower on one branch. 3 cups made like almond blossoms, each with calyx and flower on the other branch. So for the 6 branches going out of the lampstand. On the lampstand itself, there were 4 cups made with almond blossoms with their calyxes and flowers. Calyx of one piece with it under each pair of the 6 branches growing out of it. Their calyxes and their branches were of one piece with it. The whole of it was a single piece of hammered work of pure gold. Well, that sounds like a lot of work. He made it 7 lamps and its tongs and its trays of pure gold. He made it and all its utensils out of a talent of pure gold. And how much would that be for a talent? About a talent, about 75 pounds, or 34 kilograms. Yeah. On here. 25. And I'm kind of going through this quickly because we have already gone through all of this. This is all, you're not crazy, you have heard this before. When we have gone over all of this in some detail already. He made the altar of incense of acacia wood. Its length was a cubit, its breadth was a cubit. It was square. 2 cubits was its height. Its horns were of one piece with it. He overlaid it with pure gold, its top and around its side and its horns. He made a molding of gold around it, and made 2 rings of gold on it under its molding, on 2 opposite sides of it, holders for the poles with which to carry it. He made the poles of acacia wood and overlaid them with gold. There we get this altar of incense. He made the holy anointing oil also, the pure fragrant incense blended as by the perfumer. He made the altar burnt offering of acacia wood. Just to see if you remember, where's the altar of burnt offering? Outside. You got it. This altar is much larger, 5 cubits by 5 cubits, and that is outside the tabernacle. So this is what is used in order to be cleansed, to go into God's presence. Which is sort of different for us. You know, for us we have the altar at the center. For them the altar was at the entrance. 5 cubits was its length, 5 cubits its breadth. It was square. Yes, Catherine.
You know, this altar was where they do their sacrifices,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So that is what allowed them to enter.
Yes.
And that in some ways is similar to a lot of people who have their baptismal fonts
Yeah,
at
that
the
is-
entrance.
that is
and that
exactly
is
the-
what allows them to enter.
This altar, kind of liturgically, more parallels a baptismal font than it does our altar. That is exactly right. He made horns for it on its 4 corners. Its horns were of one piece. He overlaid it with bronze. He made all the utensils of the altar, the pots, the shovels, the basins, the forks, the fire pans. He made all its utensils of bronze. He made the altar for the altar a grating network of bronze under its ledge extending halfway down. He cast 4 rings on the 4 corners of the bronze grating as holders for the poles. He made the poles of acacia wood, overlaid them with bronze. He put the poles to the rings on the sides of the altar to carry it with them. He made it hollow with cords. Why is all this stuff made out of bronze and not gold? So it doesn't melt. You bet. That's exactly right. It needs to be able to be heated up. He made the basin of bronze and its stand of bronze, the mirrors of the ministering women who ministered in the entrance of the tent of meeting. Kind of an interesting phrase, isn't it? Yeah. Serving. That's what that word means there, serving. And he made the court. For the south side, the hangings of the court were of fine twined linen 100 cubits. Their 20 pillars and their 20 bases were of bronze. But the hooks of the pillars and their fillets were of silver. For the north side there were hangings of 100 cubits. Their 20 pillars, their 20 bases were of bronze. But the hooks of the pillars and their fillets were of silver. For the west side were hangings of 50 cubits. Their 10 pillars, their 10 bases, the hooks of the pillars, their fillets were of silver. For the front to the east, 50 cubits. The hangings for one side of the gate were 15 cubits with their 3 pillars and 3 bases. So for the other side. On both sides of the gate of the court were hangings of 15 cubits with their 3 pillars and their 3 bases. All the hangings around the court were of fine twined linen. The bases for the pillars were of bronze, but the hooks of the pillars and their fillets were of silver. The overlaying of their capitals was also of silver. All the pillars of the court were filleted with silver. The screen for the gate of the court was embroidered with needlework in blue and purple, scarlet yarns, and fine twined linen. It was 20 cubits long and 5 cubits high in its breadth, corresponding to the hangings of the court. Their pillars were 4 in number. Their 4 bases were of bronze. Their hooks of silver, the overlay of their capitals and their fillets of silver. All the pegs for the tabernacle and for the court all around were of bronze. These are the records of the tabernacle of the testimony as they were recorded at the commandment of Moses, the responsibility of the Levites under the direction of Ithamar, the son of Aaron the priest. Bezalel, the son of Uri, son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, made all that the Lord commanded Moses, and with him was Oholiab, the son of Ahisamach, of the tribe of Dan, an engraver and designer, and embroidered in blue and purple and scarlet yarns and fine twined linen. All the gold that was used for the work, in all the construction of the sanctuary, the gold from the offering was 29 talents and 730 shekels. So do a little bit of math there. How big was a talent? 75 pounds.
Wow.
So that's a lot of gold. That is a lot.
What do they need 2,000 guys?
Exactly. That is why they needed 1,200 people to help move this stuff. The silver from those of the congregation who were recorded was 100 talents, 1,775 shekels by the shekel of the sanctuary. A becca a head. I have no idea what a becca is.
That is half a shekel.
That is half a shekel by the shekel of the sanctuary. For everyone who is listed in the records, from 20 years old and upward, for 603,550 men. The 100 talents of silver were for casting the bases of the sanctuary and the bases of the veil. 100 bases for the 100 talents. Talent a base. And of the 1,775 shekels, he made hooks for the pillars and overlaid their capitals and made fillets for them. The bronze that was offered was 70 talents and 2,400 shekels. But then he made the bases for the entrance of the tent of meeting, the bronze altar, and the bronze grating for it, and all the utensils of the altar. The bases around the court, and the bases of the gate of the court, all the pegs of the tabernacle, and all the pegs around the court. Now, I don't want to get too excited, but by my reckoning, we have 2 chapters left in Exodus. So we should be done by the end of May. I think that we will finish that on Palm Sunday. So we have next week, the week after Palm Sunday. So we will finish Exodus on Palm Sunday, and then we will start something new. We'll take a week off for Easter. We'll start something new the Sunday after Easter along the way.